Hi, my name is Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss the latest from our new Brexit Minister Jacob Rees-Mogg, as he seems to have already been put in his box by Downing Street after only a couple of weeks in the job. It would appear that the one sensible thing he's ever had to say about Brexit is not actually in line with government policy, not only exposing the fact that he is not deciding government policy, but he isn't even aware of what it is. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So you may be thinking this is about, because the actual latest is Jacob Rees-Mogg is going to be looking at the feasibility of bringing back imperial measures. I mean, we would already have imperial measures for some things. But no, this is something else, which actually might give you hope that we're not actually going to go and reverse back to imperial measures for everything. Basically, I published a video last week discussing how Jacob Rees-Mogg, who's the Minister for Brexit Opportunities now, had said that he agreed with the report that we should unilaterally abolish any need to comply, for foreign importers to comply with our standards, but we should readily agree to accept the standards of others as a way of managing trade in our post-Brexit world. I mean, if that is not the polar opposite of take back control, then as my partner would say, my arsehole's a kipper. But then the Brexit minister did more than just nod approvingly at someone else's words. He offered up a few of his own. This never goes well. Now, before I explain what he did next, it's worth reminding people that Jacob Rees-Mogg is so devoid of any intelligence or charm that he was asked to keep his mouth shut during the 2019 general election campaign by Conservative strategists. Jacob, shh, stum, go in the corner. That's it. Stay there until it's over. You know, it was, he was allowed to speak at the start, went very badly, and they told him to hide under a rock until the election was over, basically. The sort of company he keeps is almost exclusively those who are so wealthy, they're not even sure ordinary people really exist. So, you know, he's the sort of person who will say something without actually considering that it won't be taken very well by the general public. There's such a gulf between them. But anyway, that context thrown in, Rees-Mogg was reported at the weekend to be musing on the issue of standards checks. Now, I don't mean the standards checks across the border, I mean the certification. Now, this is a particular bone of contention for UK manufacturers. They produce goods to meet the EU standard. Those products carry the CE mark, as almost all manufacturers exporting around the world still do. You look at a product, any product you like, it's got the CE mark on it. And I've said before, you can't sell goods in a market if it doesn't meet the standards of that market. So, and the EU single market represents not just a very large and wealthy consumer market, but also one with very high standards. So if you're a manufacturer anywhere in the world, if you want to sell to different markets around the world, you manufacture it to the highest standards of whichever markets you wish to export to. So by and large, things have the CE mark on them. You know, even if not all of those goods are intended for export to the EU, usually it's not worth it to have different production lines. So you want one production line, you meet the standards for that highest standard market. So the CE mark, the stamp which indicates that the product meets EU standards, is known and respected around the world. It's on everything. But when it comes to goods produced in the UK, there's a new stamp now, the UKCA mark. There, it's just there. You will notice that the CE mark is there alongside it. You look at anything produced in the UK, it's there now. So the UKCA mark has not replaced the CE mark as yet. But the government sort of want it to. You know, all this, oh, we want to do things our own way. So, I mean, it won't, of course, because British manufacturers who wish to export are still going to need that CE mark, although I can't export anywhere. The UKCA mark will only work in Britain. Not even the UK, just Britain. But there are two major problems with the UKCA mark idea. The first is that British manufacturers need to pay twice to get their products tested, one for each mark, because they can't just say, oh, we'll just use the UKCA mark then. That's not going to be respected around the world, especially not in the EU. The second issue is that if foreign producers wish to export to Britain, so leave British manufacturers alone now, foreign manufacturers, particularly in the EU, they want to export to Britain, they will have to pay for the UKCA certification. Now, if they don't sell enough to Britain specifically, like let's say you sell some things in Germany and some things in Belgium, some things here and some things there, and some of your things in Britain, but not enough in any one country to make it worth your while going through the expense of a whole extra certification, they'll stop selling it to Britain. It's really that simple. If it's not feasible, if it's not economically viable, they won't do it. That means we suddenly lose access to things like, for example, parts for maintaining complex machinery that need maintenance across their lifetime. Cars, lifts, hospital scanning machines, all manner of essential machines, in fact, that need to go on for a long time but will not last without maintenance. We cannot manufacture every component economically in this country that might be needed, and we cannot do without them. This is why the government have already delayed the requirement for UKCA to replace CE until next year. It was supposed to have come online already, of course, but the government were persuaded that the idea was insane even for them. But they still insist it will happen next January. We shall see. But then Moggy talked about it being needless to have these standards checking costs applied twice. If a widget is good and effective, he said, why do we need to put the cost on companies of testing it twice? Well, this was extraordinary. It's what people like me have been arguing for some time. Having all these separate British institutions to just copy what the EU were doing at what they were doing at a fraction of the cost. We're paying 10 times as much sometimes. And it's not even as valuable because the EU version is the gold standard around the world. Ours will be useful only in Britain. More expensive, less useful. Not exactly what businesses want to sign up to. But here was a cabinet minister saying that the concept was ridiculous. Not just a journalist, not just some influential commentator. A cabinet minister, the cabinet minister who's supposedly in charge of our post-Brexit, blueprint, really. And he was saying that this idea is ridiculous. Was this a way of letting us know that the government was changing its policy and that the UKCA concept would go no further? That would be encouraging. Sure, have it stamped on British products by all means, but only as part of the normal CE testing. At last, a sensible approach to Brexit, and Jacob Rees-Mogg of all people putting it forward. But sadly, no. Peter Foster, who's an editor at the Financial Times, looked upon this and he asked Downing Street what was going on. Has the government changed its policy, he asked. No, was the answer. Jacob Rees-Mogg was just talking out of his arse without the faintest clue what government Brexit policy even was. Now, this is a problem. It's a problem from different points of view. On one level, it's a problem because the cabinet minister in charge of devising Brexit Opportunity is not actually familiar with his own government's Brexit roadmap. So, how is it possible for him to formulate policy, which is what cabinet ministers are supposed to do, if he does not know the parameters within which he is working? I mean, even given that any cabinet minister can have their policy ideas amended or even quashed by other cabinet colleagues if there's friction, particularly the Treasury if they don't want to pay for it, how is it possible to come up with anything if you do not even know what is possible? It essentially means that Rees-Mogg, at best, will waste a lot of time going down a lot of dead ends before finding something fruitful to do. And at worst, will do absolutely nothing. Cannot do anything of value in his role. A complete waste of public money. Then there's a second way of looking at it, is that the driving force behind Brexit is now confused. Who is driving our Brexit policies, our overarching Brexit strategy? It's a huge feature of our society now. It pervades everything. Who is the cabinet minister in charge of it? Who is the elected representative who takes ultimate responsibility for it in terms of the day-to-day? The Prime Minister obviously has responsibility for all departments, but in terms of the day-to-day, it's not Jacob Rees-Mogg. That's obvious because he doesn't even know what the government's policies are. And when he seemed to come up with his own, he was told by Downing Street, no, that's not it, mate. It's not Michael Gove because he is handling the levelling up smoke and mirrors now. It's not Liz Truss, she's the Foreign Secretary. Her only Brexit role is essentially external to Britain at least. The only parts of the UK she's focused on is Northern Ireland, and they won't be dealing with most of the changes needed in Britain. Which cabinet minister is in charge of sorting out how Brexit actually works in Britain? Not how it works with the rest of the world, how it actually works internally. There isn't anyone, is there? George Eustace and his DEFRA department deal with farming and environmental issues, but even those are largely related to external issues. and he isn't preparing an overall roadmap. So what that suggests to me is there is no cabinet minister in charge of our broad, holistic national Brexit strategy. Which begs the question, who is in charge? If it's not a cabinet minister, it must be an official. Now, whether that's a senior civil servant or a government advisor. Or worse still, nobody is actually in charge of it. Is that it? Is there actually nobody whose day-to-day job it is to coordinate all the aspects of government through the changes that Brexit has brought? Please tell me it's not Boris Johnson. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.